Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Christine Deakers. She is the Customer Marketing and Advocacy Manager at Mixpanel. Christine, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
I'm excited to chat with you, Christine. We have been trying to get this one on the calendar for a little bit, and really excited to dive into this because we're going to be talking about customer storytelling. And you've actually got a framework that listeners can use when they're thinking about, how do you tell customer stories. You're also going to share some different ways that you can tell those customer stories. It's not always just, case studies and blog posts. There are lots of different ways that we can tell customer stories. You're going to dive into that a little bit later. But before we do, I'd love for our audience just to have a little bit more context. Tell us about Mixpanel and what you and your team are up to over there.
Awesome. Well, I work for Mixpanel. We're a user analytics company, so we help companies learn from their data. So anything that a user or a person, the action that they take within an app or a website. So we help everyone from like the product manager, marketing managers, data scientists, really anyone who wants to learn and make better decisions with data. We help people do that. So I actually started at Mixpanel just about 2.5 years ago. I joined the team to help build out what is called the Signal. This is our in-house publication. And our goal with the Signal was to really prove out a thesis that, people are really hungry to learn about how to learn from their data and how to build better products by learning from their data. So I worked on an incredible team where we got to interview people like Steven Sinofsky, who is an investor at AZ16, Andrew Chen, who is like the famous growth hacker, the CTO of the New York Times, Max Levchin, founders and product people who are just really incredible thinkers and inventors in the world. So for the first about year and a half, we grew this publication from about 2,000 subscribers to close to 50,000 subscribers. So that was a whirlwind and it was really fun. But along the way, we really saw that there was a lot of potential with storytelling, and particularly when it came to our customers. All our customers, they obviously use Mixpanel. They were getting great value out of it. They were making incredible, impactful decisions with data. So this led me down a new path where I started to tell the story of our customers. So that's where we're at today. And now I'm leading up our customer marketing and advocacy team. Our efforts, I'm currently a team of one, but it's been a great ride.
I love it. And so in talking about, you realizing the need for storytelling as you started to dive more into storytelling, not just in the sense of telling customer stories, but more, general storytelling. And what were those? Did you instantly go to kind of how can we do storytelling with customers, or were there other types of storytelling that you started to dip your toe into first?
Yeah, we first wanted to really carve out a niche for ourselves with the Signal. We wanted to be able to really connect with the product people of the world and people who are inventors and who are diving into data and building some of the best tech companies out there with data. So that was our first goal, was to really connect with the creme de la creme of tech. And meanwhile, while we were doing that, we realized that our customers were also those people. So that's where we met with the biggest investors, the biggest CEOs and the product builders inventing these crazy new apps and websites and how they use data to do great things. But then we found that our customers had really compelling stories to tell as well. So that's where we dove into it. And what we found is that I think in the world of influencer marketing, you always want to go to the person who has the most wisdom to share and the expertise. But something that we love to see is that the people that we interview as these experts who are our customers who, might not have like the biggest brand, but they're doing really smart things with their data and making great decisions. Like when we work with them and we, write an article about them or have them at one of our office hours events, slowly but surely we notice that their social profile or their personal brand really climbs. And we love to see that we're able to help people kind of define and craft their own story and help them see what powerful things they could do with data.
So as we get into now this concept of customer storytelling, you had talked offline about really having a framework for approaching customer storytelling. Can you tell us a little bit about, because this is going to vary from business to business. Talk to us about the framework that anyone listening to this can apply so that they can start to tell really compelling customer stories.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to kind of take a step back before we kind of dive into this framework, but I have a few beliefs that I really think are true just from my time being a writer, a content marketer, working in a variety of like disciplines in marketing. And over the course of the past few years, I've noticed a few things. So one, when you meet a person, you realize that they come with them filled with stories. Everyone has their own story, whether it's their career story, whether it's how they solved a big problem. Everyone comes with a lot of drama and like narrative. And what I also learned is that, I think as human beings, we're very inherently connected to stories. Stories are the ways that we build relationships with people and how we see value in something. So when someone is able to really connect with you over a story, they're able to really understand like the meaning behind it. But, that's very like we're waxing poetic right now. I'm an English major, or I was an English major. So that's something that really makes me excited about my work. But in the SaaS space, particularly with B2B tech, what you'll learn is that your customers are your greatest asset next to, like the code or your actual product. And I would argue that, that's the relationship that your customers have to your code or your product. You can't do one without the other, obviously. So over the course of the past few years, I've learned that, your customers are your greatest asset. And oftentimes the messenger is often the message. So when you have a customer who authentically shares how they use a certain product or software and how they're able to be able to achieve these crazy things, that's gold. Like that's gold for any company to be able to capture, but also just to know that their customers are really getting incredible value out of the software that they're using. So the framework of customer marketing and advocacy, for me, it really begins with the basic principles of content marketing. And content marketing always begins with, really understanding who is your audience, really beginning with that psychology of like, what is it that this person wants? What is their motivation? What are the struggles that this person has? What is required of them to reach a certain goal or an accomplishment that they're hoping to achieve? And then obviously with that audience, those personas or those profiles of people would really change whether, you're talking to someone who works in media and entertainment or a person who's working in financial services or, all the different verticals out there, or even, their titles. So, we work with product managers, we work with marketers, we work with people who have like analytics in their title. And then we also work with executives. So how do all these different multidimensional people, like what is it that those people want? And then how can you really help a person understand the value of a certain tool? And it really begins with meeting a person with where they are. So that's where I think customer marketing and advocacy can really begin. So, we can begin with really asking people questions. You can interview them in order to not only understand like what are their goals, what were they trying to set out to do, how did the technology or the solution impact their business and impact them and how they were able to solve a big problem or make a big discovery. And then sort of what was the resolution and the ROI of being able to use your software and the company's software for their business. So it's like with that framework of really understanding who you're talking to, and then what is that rise and fall of, the problem, the situation, the technology, and then the results, you're really able to see the full picture of like how your software has made an impact on their company. But that's sort of like, if you that's very classic, like case study structure.
Yeah.
But the thing with that is that you can really apply that same thinking to a lot of different mediums and channels. So, what I like to do is kind of think about like, if every person has a story that they can tell, and we have proof that this story has great ROI for the individual and for the organization, in how many places can we tell that story? So can we tell it not only in a case study or a blog, but can we also turn that into a webinar? Can we turn that into a fireside chat, which we love to do at our office hours and in all our events that we have that happen across our country? So that's what we try to kind of think about, is like, how do we tell this story in a lot of different mediums?
For several years now, I've been using a graphic design service called Kappa 99. You've probably heard me talk about them on the show before because it's one of the best investments we've ever made in our business. For just $399 a month, you can get unlimited graphic design. Seriously, it really is unlimited. You can have them design your infographics, case studies, and all of your blog posts and social media graphics. They even do t-shirt designs, email signatures, and book layouts. So head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and sign up for their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. You're going to love it. All right, let's get back to this interview. I just experimented with telling one of our customer stories, a couple of customer stories actually, as like long form LinkedIn status updates, and ended up having, seeing incredible results, in terms of engagement, and a lot of people reaching out, sending, messages. Hey, James, would love to hear more about, how you could do a show like that for me, da, 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 da. And it wouldn't have necessarily been something that I would have thought about, but I think it speaks to your point of kind of thinking outside the box, in terms of how can you tell those stories on different platforms using different mediums, because the story itself is powerful and we don't just have to push it into a PDF and push it out as a case study. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And to be honest, like we're just living in an age where the PDF is most likely going to be collecting like metaphorical dust, you could say. A PDF is great for when someone really wants to do their due diligence and read it. However, as a customer marketer and like advocacy person, you want to create like a surround sound effect around your customer stories. So that means it's not just the written asset, it's also social. It's also like, how do we like position these stories for potentially like paid advertisement? Essentially, how can we make the customer's voice front and center when someone like Google's user analytics or product analytics? We want to be able to surface those things right away. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners know those statistics out there where it's like 70% of the buying process is done before a person even meets with a salesperson. And like 80% of people require peer reviews before they look to buying like B2B SaaS, things like that. So it's difficult to create that surround sound, but I think you always need to kind of think of like all your work through a lens of like integrated communications.
Totally agree. So Christine, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else around this idea of customer storytelling that you think our listeners should know before I let you go today?
Honestly, I think there's just like so much potential with how we can tell customer stories these days. And in a world where people are so obsessed with data, I think especially in the sales world, people might kind of lead with the big ROI metrics that are kind of required to show your impact. But I would really encourage people, no matter if, they have an English degree or not, or if they're writers or they're not, like human beings are very innate storytellers. And I think that our storytelling capacity is sort of stamped out of us at an early age. So, whether you're a marketer, whether you're in sales, whether you're even, an engineer, being able to tell a story to communicate your point is a really powerful skill. So yeah, I try to really encourage everyone at Mixpanel to remember that and just to practice it. It can be like a fun hobby, and you'll be able to see that you're really able to build stronger relationships with people when you're able to effectively communicate a story.
Christine, this has been fantastic. If somebody wants to learn more about Mixpanel or they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing it?
Yeah, honestly, I'm active on Twitter, so you can tweet me. My handle is @Deakhaus, so that's DEAKHAUS. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Christine Deakers, last name spelled DEAKERS.
Awesome, Christine. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Again, this has been incredible, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.